Hi, my name is Tamika Gibson, and I will be posing and answering a research question focusing on the early civilization in China. My research question that I would like to answer is, why did Empress Lu contravene the legalist and Confucian expectations of women in the early Han Dynasty? Let's break this up a little bit before going into the answer. So I'm going to first focus on Empress Lu. I have a picture here of her which was painted around the 1630s. Empress Lu. Who is she? How did she become an empress? Empress Lu was born in Shangfu in 241 BC during the late Qin dynasty. Before coming to power, Empress Lu was best known for being a consort for Emperor Gazu. She was also commonly known for her position as the mother to her two children, Lu Ying and Princess Yuan of Lu. This was before her reign of being empress in the Han dynasty. Empress Lu began exerting control when Lu Ying, also known as Hui Di, inherited the throne after his father's passing, even though he was very young. Empress Lu was appointed to assist Lu in making the bigger decisions. However, Empress Lu did all of the dirty work when it came to the empire itself. Empress Lu knew what she was doing, that's for sure. As said by Yang, another strategy of women rulers and their allies was to deliberately install young empires whom they could control. Empress Lu was admired for her ruthlessness at dealing with potential political adversaries and was known to always get what she wanted, despite how calm and sweet she looks in the painting on the right. While in rule, Empress Lu removed her husband's family from significant court positions and replaced them with her own, while also having one of her husband's other consorts killed due to hatred of her. Empress Lu didn't let anything get between her and the power that she had. Traditional East Asia claimed it is said that she murdered any prince that could possibly take her power away. As stated by Yang, Empress Lu was a special case in the history of empress regents, in that she established a new model of regency, one that contrasts sharply with its Han and Tang procedures, in its lack of dependence upon the empress's family. Empress Lu is remembered today for stabilizing the Han dynasty and looking after her family and their power in the Chinese imperial court. As seen on the left, there are statues of Empress praying still around today. She was the first Empress of China. Her legacy will always stay with the Han dynasty. While the Empress's legacy will always stay with the Han dynasty, the philosophies during this time were ones that went against the Empress. Let's now have a deeper look at legalism and its effects on China during the Han dynasty. Legalism, also known as legalist, is one of the main philosophies followed by the Chinese during the Han dynasty. Legalism focuses on the interest of the ruling class and finds it more important than the interest of the common people. Legalists aim for a strong central government that holds all power and control over the people by the threat of extreme and harsh punishment. While legalism focuses on the law and ensuring it is followed to a T, legalism also has strong views and opinions of women. In ancient and imperial China, women were instructed to not participate in various realms of social life, to remain indoors and be escorted by men while conducting outside business. Legalism was not the only philosophy during the time of the Han dynasty. Confucian was also a dominant and growing philosophy followed throughout this time. Confucianism focused on particular questions and morality and ethics. Particular questions of morality and ethics. Confucius helped to shape Chinese families and where women fitted into them. A person who follows and believes in the teachings of the Chinese philosopher Confucius is known as a Confucian. Confucius lived from 550 to 479 BC and was a teacher and philosopher. There is a sculpture painting of Confucius on the right. He stemmed his ideas mainly from a version of the Golden Rule, which was, do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself. The well-known ideal of respecting your elders is a Confucian ideal. When taking a deeper look at the Confucian, it is noted that one poem in the Book of Poetry concluded, women should not take part in public affairs. They should devote themselves to tending silkworms and weaving. This is a strong Confucian standpoint where men are more valued than women. For example, a man could divorce his wife on any of 7 grounds, which included barrenness, jealousy, talkativeness, but could do so only if there was a family for her to return to. For women, divorce by agreement was possible. However, there were no other grounds on which a woman could divorce her husband. On the left is a photo of a Confucius statue still around today. Investigating historical figures from the ancient era is complex due to the lack of remaining evidence in this current time. Consequently, answering the research question, why did Empress Lu contravene the legalist and Confucian expectations of women in the early Han dynasty, requires an understanding of the early civilization of ancient China and inferring Empress Lu's motives. The lack of primary sources remaining today from the Han dynasty necessitates a heavy reliance on secondary sources. While taking into consideration the above secondary sources, it is important to keep in mind the bias that has occurred in the writing or creating of said sources. Nonetheless, these sources reveal Empress Lu was a woman with power and rule of ancient China during the Han dynasty. Despite how unusual this was in China during this time period. Whilst being the first empress of China, her control and manipulation of the political situation went against both legalist and Confucius ideals that were already in place prior to her being in rule. Legalism always focused on following the law, and women not having power. Empress Lu contravened that social norm by retrieving power through her son's position on the throne. Empress Lu contravened the Confucius way of life and treated others however she felt. She replaced her late husband's family with her own in the courts. She killed her husband's other consort due to hatred, and she killed any prince that got in her way of power. Empress Lu was not going to be stopped by the legalist or Confucian ideals, but instead contravened them and successfully retrieved power and rule in China during the Han dynasty. Overall, I trust that I have constructed a strong argument. However, there are definitely some things I could do better. I started this assessment about 3 weeks before it was due, as I had a very busy schedule and let everything get in the way of researching, and starting to write my assessment. I also found it quite hard to write a research question due to not being at all of the workshops and not doing a lot of prior research on the topics. After a few weeks of doing some research on my interest and receiving guidance from my lecturer, I was able to decide on an effective research question. Despite this, I believe that overall I used strong resources and have given a solid argument. This assessment was a lot harder than I expected at the start, and I think most of the reason for that was because of other things happening in my life and my assessment not being first on my list of things to do. As much as life events cannot be controlled, I think the next time I would aim to start my extra research prior to a couple of weeks before the assessment is due, and I would make sure I leave adequate time to complete my assessment. Maybe I need to be like Empress Lou, letting nothing stand in my way of my goals.